An independent task force established to tackle challenges in ADHD care published its final report today. In it, calls for ADHD to be recognised and treated as a common condition, and that healthcare professionals, including GPs, should receive more training on recognising symptoms. It also highlights a need to tackle waiting list times to get an ADHD assessment, which, according to the NHS, is more than 8 years. Mariella, you got a diagnosis. How important was that to you?
Well, I got a diagnosis. It was very important, not so much to me, but to my son. I got a diagnosis at the same time as him because I was very dubious about it, or sceptical about the whole thing. But then I saw a checklist of symptoms and thought, tick, tick, tick. So we ended up having to go private because he was in the year before his A-levels, and I was told it would take 3 years to get him an appointment at that stage. I think now there's 600,000 people on the waiting list.
Well, it's 8 years on average, the NHS say.
I mean, it's, you know, it's a disgrace, really, because I think if it was a physical condition that you could easily identify, it would be approached differently. And for my son, it was imperative because he did his GCSEs and I saw him just completely unable to sit and focus. I'd leave him in a room to do his revision, and 2 minutes later he'd be wandering around doing something completely different. And he didn't tick all the other boxes that you think about. You know, he was not a naughty child. He didn't, like, run around trying to set fire to things, you know, so it was completely out of my understanding. And when he was diagnosed, he basically was put on the medication, and so he turned from a boy who couldn't sit still for 2 minutes to someone who could sit for 8 hours a day. It completely changed the sort of trajectory for his academic studies, and it meant that he could now, he's at uni and having a great time. And, you know, I just think that to treat it as something that... I think that the problem comes because not enough people can get diagnosis, and to treat it as something insignificant is a real mistake. And that ultimately, I mean, for me, it doesn't matter so much. I'm much milder, and, you know, I've lived with it all my life, so actually at this point I sort of know the things I'm challenged by.
Nadia, what about you? Because you got a recent diagnosis.
Yeah, I've been, like, well, a few years now, and I was lucky enough because the show got me the diagnosis, but I meet people all the time, because I've spoken a lot about ADHD, that are absolutely desperate. They can see their child going on a route and they don't know how to help them. And we know for sure that the rates of addiction, you know, my husband is very ADHD, had huge addiction problems, are very high for people with ADHD. You know, I'm lucky, I have a good family, I have a husband that's really good at managing money, my management skills of money, my management, all kinds of things.
Are the symptoms different across different people?
Yeah.
And what would
because people
you...
just tend to think, oh, somebody that's got ADHD, oh, I can't listen and can't sit still. It's the whole management skills that can be really, really challenging, and that's where life can end up really chaotic for people.
Like running away with you.
And so it's not just about, oh, you just can't concentrate and you can't sit still. It really can impact all the way through life. And it doesn't always have to be about medication. Being diagnosed, and then it is even better probably, is to get an ADHD coaching to treat you how to manage. You need to do it in a different way.
In a holistic way, and it's kind of like the whole menopause thing, isn't it? It's subjective.
The thing is, again, the
people.
NHS, we talk all the time about wanting to deal with things early on, so it's not costing us 10 times more. It will be the same with ADHD. And
it says here,
to just close waiting lists is very hard.
Yeah, adolescents and young adults aged 11 to 24 have been shown to be especially high-risk group. And you do kind of think that for them to sort of go on and be able to work and be contributing to society in the best way that they can...
And those are the formative years.
It's the better time to do it, isn't it? Sue, have you had experience with this?
Well, I think everyone's had experience with it, but I think I was going to touch on what Marielle said about it being... It is a very similar diagnosis journey to the menopause, and that, you know, it shares the same patterns of being misunderstood, not believed, one size fits all, postcode
told it's something else.
Yeah, and I think the part of that is because it's a lived experience. You know, it's not an illness that you go, oh, look, I can see that.
Yeah, you've got a rash.
Yeah. But I mean, I've seen the impact having a diagnosis has made on a lot of people I know, and, like, just looking at you two now, you know, and that's you know, I wouldn't be surprised if I went, somebody would say I was, you know, when I look back at how I I've dealt with
Impulsivity,
things. I wouldn't be at all surprised. But so it's very interesting to hear that people who do get a diagnosis and do get into the system have found that it has had such a huge impact on their life.
Definitely has.
OK, well, we asked the Department of Health for a comment. Health Minister Zubir Ahmed said too many are waiting too long to get the ADHD assessment and help they need. We're working across government to prioritise early intervention and provide support for people who need it most. Now we'll be looking closely at the recommendations from the ADHD task force so we can continue to make real improvements to the support and services available to people with ADHD.